Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Captain Clyde's MTG. Today, we're going to look at cards from Dustborn that might make it into Modern. Some of them make it into Modern, we'll say it. So, before we get started, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. The comments down below will feed that YouTube algorithm. Feed it. And there's links in the description so you can buy some cards to support the channel. Also, don't forget, subscribe on YouTube, be a member. We got giveaways and all kinds of good stuffs going down. Trying to get to 2,000 subscribers for the big giveaways. But, hey, I'll still give some stuff away every now and then because that's just how I go. Because I got too much shit around here and my wife's going to make me get rid of it on something with it. But anyway, so let's take a look at what we got today. We're going to start in Modern with number 5, the Meat Hook Massacre. Number 2. 4 black, 2X. When the Meat Hook Massacre 2 enters, each player sacrifices X creatures. Whenever a creature you control dies, you may pay 3 life. If you do, return that card under your control, the finality counter. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, they may pay 3 life. If they don't, return that card under your control, the finality counter. And I know what you're thinking. Clyde, Captain, slow your roll. This is 4 black and XX. Well, think about it like this. We're in Modern. Every land is going to be 2 colors. It's going to be black something. Black green, black red, black white. You name it, it's going to have black in it. Also, you don't have to play this to sack creatures. I mean, you could. You could. But for 4 mana, if you get this on the battlefield and then just start killing your opponent's creatures on a 1-for-1 ratio, or heaven forbid your wrath and get 3 or 4 at one time, they are going to have to pay 3 life for every creature you kill, or you're going to get a creature to beat them in the head with. And then also, you can pay 3 life for any of your creatures so that they come back. Maybe a Death Shadow, anything else. This could probably see a 1 of or 2 of in several decks, especially decks that like to play Kalitas to help exile creatures when they go to the graveyard. I think there's some possibility here, and it's going to have some play in Modern, especially Modern in particular, because there's so many dual lands, and 4 pips of black is not that hard in even a 3 or 4 color deck. And if for some ungodly reason you end up with 6, 7, or 8 mana, heaven forbid if they're not playing Counterspell Magic, because it's about to get real. So moving on, we're going to get to number 4 here. That's right. It's the Abhorrent Oculus. It's the eyeball, the big eyeball. Big goobers. Big globbers. Blue and 2 for a 5/5 flyer. Additional cost to cast the spell, 6 cards from your graveyard. Beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you can be at the Manifest Dread. As we know, Modern is fast, quick, and in a hurry about throwing stuff in the graveyard. You could very easily cast this on turn 3 and have 6 things in your graveyard between baubles and fetch lands and God knows what else you got going on. And not to mention, Modern has some of the best and cheapest ways to get things out of the graveyard. And you only have to exile cards out of your graveyard if you cast this card. If you put it into play from your graveyard, you don't got to. And once this is in play, I mean, come on. You're going to get an extra 2/2 every turn. Like, that just has got to get out of hand by itself. This by itself could build an army. It's an army in a box. Swiss Army can, if you would. So yeah, I think this is going to have a lot of play as well. It's also cheap. Doesn't cost as much to get out of the graveyard as some of the other big mana cost creatures that there are. It does fly. It's a 5/5. Lots of possibilities here. Lots of possibilities. So I think this will be a good one that we'll see get some play in Modern. Moving on, next we have Screaming Nemesis. That's what I like to call my children. Anyway, we just talked about this in Pioneer, and in Modern, it's even better. Modern already has a life gain deck, which is cause for a previous video talking about, I think it was Reign of Gore, from Ravnica Ascension to go from $5 to $20, which basically says if someone gains life, they lose that much life instead. This will be another way to combat decks like that. It's a 3/3 with haste. If you deal damage to it, it can deal that much damage to something else. So if someone wants to bolt this, you can just bolt them in exchange. And if you deal damage to a player that way, they can't gain life for the rest of the game. But also the biggest thing is you deal damage to any target. You literally can block one thing that's a 3/3 and kill something else that's a 3/3 with this creature. It's like Boros Reckoner. Anybody remember those from back in the day? Except it's only 1 red and 2 to start. And that's not that out of the question for Modern. Especially, this is a spirit, and inside those other kind of elemental type style decks, this could be a big thing. So, yeah, I think this will at least see sideboard play, if not some main play, in a lot of decks. I mean, I'm happy to play one of these in my mono red decks just so, when the opponent's like, oh, I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to go, no, you're not, because I'm going to bolt my own creature so your Lightning Helix and your game life doesn't work ever the rest of the game. I like them shenanigans. Anyway, shenanigans? What the hell am I talking about? Moving on, let's talk about number 2 here in Modern. That's right, we're back again with Split Up. I mean, I know we're kind of beating a dead horse here, but like 2 white and 1 wrath, how is it not good? How is it not playable in every format? Destroy all tapped or untapped creatures. I mean, the worst that's going to happen is your opponent only attacks you with half their creatures at a time. And I'm here to tell you, if that's what's happening because they're scared of this card, mission already accomplished. You're taking not as much damage every turn, so you're not going to die as fast. 3 mana wraths are so hard to get. They don't have big drawbacks. This is a drawback, like I mentioned. You can only get tapped or untapped creatures. But if that's what you have to choose and as a drawback, I don't know what more you want. I mean, the only way to get something better than this is if you take that 1 wrath that you can, what is it called for 2 mana? You can you can exile it and then cast it for the alternative cost, which was technically 3 on turn 3. I mean, this lets you cast 1 on turn 3 without having to waste your turn 2 to also do it. So I just think this has so much play, especially in the older formats, that this will probably be the go-to for most white decks or white, blue, whatever decks that are going to use board wipes. But at the same time, if you're running creatures of some kind, if you want to, for example, let's say, kill all the tap creatures, you just cast this before you swing or tap your creatures. If you want to kill all the untapped creatures, I mean, if your creatures are already untapped, you might as well swing with them. Maybe they won't block. And then when you wrath, you'll only get theirs. If they do block and all your stuff dies, well, things happen. Move on. So, lots of potential. And number 1 for Modern. That's right. It's back. It's big. It's ugly. It is Demonic Console. Again, the new Demonic Tutor, in my opinion, for all the formats, except for Vintage and so forth, which actually has Demonic Tutor. But anyway, black and 1 sorcery. Search your library for a demon card, reveal it, put it into your hand. The key words here is the Delirium on it. If you have 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, instead, search for any card, put it in your hand, and shuffle. Now, we talked about this card being good enough in Pioneer because you can get the 4 cards in your graveyard. We're now talking about Modern. We're talking about you can have 4 card types in your graveyard by turn 1. Like, this card is almost, played right, is always a Demonic Tutor. Between fetch lands and baubles and the sorceries and all the other cheap stuff that will be happening, and the creatures that will be getting killed because they're all just busted. I don't see how this isn't always a Demonic Tutor in the Modern format. And like I mentioned in Pioneer, I think this too might get to see a ban sooner than later once people realize how easy it's going to be to just abuse the heck out of this thing. So, yeah, enjoy it while it lasts. my friends. So, with all that said, thanks a lot, guys. Until next time, be kind. And as usual, I hope to see you across from the game table. Because we're all going to be playing Demonic Tutor because it's just a thing now.